Hi guys, it's Mimberly and welcome back to the channel. So today we are reading through the next Xavier Ando. I'm still probably not pronouncing that right. This one's Passing By. Now, you guys seem to really like that I did the last one because I was just getting some background context. I've already done Zane's, so those two are on the way very, very soon. But let's read as Xavier's, yeah? So, and yes, I did read it before I started the next section of the story, before anyone asks. 16 years ago, spring, prior to Arthur's memory decaying to a point where he could no longer remember anything. Not long after the new year, many of Lincoln's residents still bask in the holiday spirit. However, Bloomshore's District Special Task Force, specifically Team 013, was in a panic. After 5 long years, they were welcoming a new recruit. Heard his evil is light or something. He's usually only responsible for providing light and scouting a path during missions. Support role. It's not that impressive. Impressive people won't be sent to our team. Staying here for a year is almost like being buried in the ground for a decade. So he's just like us, a nobody. Luke hands over the newcomer's information to Otome. Is he here to also fix our hallway lights? Standing before the office door, Arthur is hit by a wave of mixed emotions. This marks his 16th year as a police officer and 9th as the captain of Team 013. In his younger days, his passion led him to numerous accomplishments, but a severe injury from a high-risk mission 5 years ago significantly diminished his mobility. Having recovered since then, Arthur did some mental calculations. Even at the risk of reputational damage, he must utilize the energy of new blood to somehow mold this group of misfits back into shape. Attention everyone, Arthur swings the door open, breaking the chatty atmosphere. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the rookie will report for duty. We've only got 2 hours left, so we need to start preparing. Tommy, are you working part-time as a junk collector? This pizza box has been here for weeks. Throw it away. Arthur is completely oblivious to the neck pillow he's still wearing. And this figurine on your desk, Luke. I've told you not to bring this into our office. It makes us look bad. Team 013 is at the bottom of the hierarchy. After numerous reshuffles, they have been wilted down to a single captain, 2 officers, and a support technician who has just submitted a transfer request. They're hardly what one would call a team. In their early years, they made a name for themselves by solving several major cases. However, their present has nothing of their past luster, marked by a lack of talent. Their reputation has taken a hit due to failed investigations. When their department relocated, they were left behind to handle the task of sorting through a plethora of old files. To this day, they still inhabit the old building. As time passed, they were all but forgotten, and their only interactions with the others being the occasional job to retrieve files or search at headquarters. At the age of 23, the rookie Xavier stands before the door holding a cardboard box. His uniform is neat and his expressionless face clean. He sticks out, being the only lively person in this otherwise gloomy hallway. Excuse me. As the door swings open, a group of people in the midst of their hustle and bustle lift their heads. They are dumbfounded by the face illuminated under the bright white light. A college student? Has he graduated yet? Everyone who comes here is just a bunch of pretty boys. Slightly awkward, Arthur clears his throat, signaling for everyone to quiet down. His eyes, filled with anticipation, move to the newcomer. You must be Zav, right? Why don't you introduce yourself? Xavier, male, 23, I'm the newest member. I look forward to working with you. The young man says, heading straight to an isolated desk in the corner. He places the cardboard box beside the computer and silently starts to arrange his things. Tommy and Luke simultaneously exchange disgruntled glances. What's this guy's deal? Very Xavier-like, I'm thinking, very on character. However, as time passes, Luke's impression begins to change. Whether it's tasks assigned by the higher-ups or senior members, Xavier always completes them quickly and methodology. He works until they're done, but nothing more. He is never late, but he doesn't leave early. When asked why he requested a transfer to their squad, he answered in a matter-of-fact tone. This place has many old, archived records of Lincoln City. I want to read all of them. But there are likely over 5 million criminal records and fingerprint files in the database, and ones that haven't been entered into the system. The files from the beginning of this century alone probably amount to tens of thousands of pages. Xavier falls silent. Seeing him lose hope, Arthur pats his shoulder as though he understands. It's good to like reading, but you can't spend all your life or time in the archives. Let's have beef hot pot tonight. Xavier doesn't like a lot of things, but he's very enthusiastic when it comes to eating hot pot. Seeing as Xavier orders plates after plate of beef and lamb, Arthur is relieved, knowing a person's favourite things is basically getting closer to them. During a mission, Xavier was injured in an attempt to rescue someone. He spent nearly half a month in the hospital. Oh god. After being discharged, he insisted he didn't mean to rescue that person. He even claimed the incident had traumatized him. He ended up applying for a desk job as a logistics administrator. Like a forgotten cactus on the windowsill, Xavier lives a simple life, thriving amidst the winds and the sun's harsh glare. I would not think Xavier as a desk worker, because that's like something similar to what I do, and trust me, it's fucking boring on the worst of days. And if it's not boring, it's busy as heck. Overworked and underpaid is what I call it. Xavier always tidies up paperwork when everyone else is out on missions. He helps Luke whenever the hallway lights are broken. Despite Xavier mostly keeping to himself, people find he's actually quite easy to get along with. His evil is even more useful. Sometimes, for reasons unknown, a flash of light causes the criminal they're chasing to unexpectedly drop to the ground. Our target this time is an old friend, Lawrence. Team 013 has its usual meeting briefing. Silence hangs in the air for a moment before Arthur awkwardly clears his throat, pointing at the image on the whiteboard with a laser pen. You all know what he looks like. The Skyhaven boys learned Lawrence recently returned. Let's keep a close eye on him and proceed with caution. Lawrence made his fortune selling evil hallucinogens, distributing his supply to the major entertainment venues in Lincoln City and Skyhaven. Whether he's smart or has someone else guiding him, they always arrive either too late to find him or the goods are gone. They can never catch him. Several of their meticulously planned operations were ruined too. Just last month, Arthur was disheartened, declaring that if they failed again, it would be handed over to another team. Tommy understood this was a subtle hint from the higher-ups that Team 1013 didn't need to continue existing. Oh god, getting old. Sorry, I had to stretch my leg. Our mission this time is rather unique, Arthur says, surveying the group. According to a reliable source, Lawrence be at the newly opened Palace Bathhouse next month. The purpose of this meeting is to select an undercover agent. His eyes brim with anticipation. They are to disguise themselves as an employee. The goal is to approach the target. No one volunteers. They draw straws. As they all unfold the crumpled slips of paper, a collective sigh of relief is let out. Only Tommy speaks up, on the verge of tears at the sight of a little turtle on his slip. I would rather do anything else. That place is too dangerous. I haven't even fallen in love yet. Please don't make me go. Arthur glares at him with disappointment and frustration. You're uglier than a cow. You'd be seen as suspicious almost immediately. If you looked like Xavier... The room feels silent. All eyes turn to Xavier, who is eating his noodles in the corner. Initially lost in thought, Xavier slowly raises his head, feeling many gazes on him. God. He wasn't even paying attention. The city's most renowned entertainment district is a short 100-meter street, tightly enclosed by grand, imposing buildings. The alley behind it is narrow and seemingly endless, almost devoid of light. Here, those with shady businesses gather, their intentions silently understood. Deep in the night, a group of men in leopard print shirts and gleaming black shoes squander on the pavement, spewing alcohol-laden obscenities. Streetlights illuminate job flyers plastered onto the walls, phone numbers mostly torn off. Among the group, a lanky young man with silver hair can be spotted in the distance. In a denim shirt and jeans, he leans against the lamppost, engrossing the music from his headphones. A middle-aged man, cigarette hanging from his lips, approaches and sizes up the young man engrossing his phone. High school student? College. Ah, an adult. What brings you here? The young man removes his headphones. I'm looking to make some quick cash. Do you know how? Wayne leads Xavier into a private room on the top floor of the Palace Bathhouse. As he pushes open the door, a middle-aged man in his 40s is seated in the farthest corner, pouring tea at a mahogany long table. This is the man in charge, Roman. Hello, Roman, Xavier says, following Wayne's lead in greeting. I'm Bob. Roman, looking like he's had a long stay in the underworld, scrutinizes Xavier. His gaze lingers. Just as Xavier begins to worry his identity might be exposed, that it's time to do Plan B, the man abruptly stands. He pulls a book from the shelf behind him, flipping through the pages. Your name is too plain. It doesn't suit our palace, Roman says. He looks at Xavier. Christian. We'll call you Christian. The palace has only been open for a month, staffed by young people around the same age as Xavier. After receiving his uniform and work badge, Xavier promptly completes his onboarding. The moment he finishes, his supervisor urges him to clock in. Where's Alexander? The supervisor anxiously scans the area. What, a stomachache? Then who will go to Fontainebleau? Fontaine? Genshin Impact. Roman said he wanted to show this badge to Lawrence. Xavier willingly raises his hand. I can go, sir. You're the newcomer, aren't you? The supervisor sizes up the young man. Realizing he doesn't have a better solution at the moment, he nods. Lawrence is here to discuss business with our boss today, so mind your words. The supervisor, watching Xavier leave, mutters to himself. Such a handsome fellow. It's a pity he's dealing with this. Yeah, Xavier is pretty good looking, I must admit. Xavier arrives at the private room of Fontainebleau. 2 bodyguards stand at the door, only allowing him to enter after a thorough search. As Xavier steps inside, a client is already lying on the massage bed. He pushes the tool cart to the side of the bed, simultaneously retrieving the essential oil and slipping on gloves. Hello, is this your first time here? Could I interest you in a membership? Hands press onto the man's spine. The third vertebra, fifth. By the time they've reached the 7th, a strong pressure causes Lawrence to almost scream from the pain. He tries to lift his head. He realizes he's being held down. He can't move. Where's your supply? Who are you? Lawrence gasps. Let go of me. Help. Ouch! Someone breaks through the door and a group of guards instantly appear at the entrance. Xavier looks at them and releases Lawrence. Don't you know whose turf this is? Lawrence snatches a gun from one of his men. The others also raise their weapons, all pointed at Xavier. He slowly removes his gloves, leaving everyone unsure of his next move. For a moment, no one moves. Without even seeing Xavier move, some of the men are knocked down by a sudden burst of light. The young man holds a sword seemingly forged from moonlight itself. By the time Lawrence comes back to his senses, all of his men around him have been taken down. Xavier walks up to the man, kicks him, and then uses the sword to lift his chin. Can we talk? By the time Luke arises back up, Xavier stands alone amidst a circle of fallen bodyguards. In the corner, Lawrence is tied up with bed sheets, his neck at an odd angle. Xavier, did you take out everyone in this room? No. Xavier walks down the corridor, pulling Luke by his collar. They ran into my sword. Message received requesting backup. Xavier walks for a bit and then stops. Luke follows Xavier's gaze. A flood of men in black suits spills out of the elevator. I'm not very strong, so you'll have to do the fighting, Xavier says. Huh. All Luke notes is that the grip on his collar loosens and then he's tossed out of the hallway. Didn't look like you were losing. Ah! Half a month later, at the accommodation ceremony, Luke scratches his head. Under the fervent gaze of his fellow officers, he steps onto the stage to speak. I'm not quite sure what happened myself. Seeing all those people, I stilled myself and thought might as well close my eyes and take a gamble. Then I just started punching. Before I knew it, they all fell like dominoes. Luke recalls that day with a smirk. Maybe they were just too weak. Oh, the true hero of this incident was our team Xavier, and there is more. A month later, Polar Bear, notorious for selling evil drugs, shows up at the doorsteps of a police station. He was tied up, weeping and confessing his sins. Another 2 months later, Cash, who had been using his evil to do telecom scams, is found live streaming on MeTube, dramatically slapping himself. Tears stream down his face as he implores everyone not to trust calls from unknown overseas numbers. 3 months later, in the light of the outstanding performance of Team 013, the HQ commander temporarily reassigns Luke and Otome. It's good for further career development, but both of them refuse. They argue their abilities to catch criminals is purely because of luck. They felt inadequate being in more important roles. They're open to temporary reassignment, but are firmly against a permanent transfer. For reasons they can't quite articulate, ever since Xavier joined, the previously inept team somehow find their fighting spirit. As for who brought them luck, and whether Xavier is as simple as he appears to be, no one wants to know. Everyone seems to have an unspoken understanding to guard this secret. Huh. Okay. Interesting. I didn't think he'd be the type to do that, but I suppose he had to become a Deepspace hunter somehow, so that makes sense. As the year draws to a close, the medals and recommendation letters from headquarters arrive. Tommy and Luke, both 2 men on the cusp of their 30s, hug each other in a tearful embrace. For a moment, it's unclear whether Luke is crying from being overwhelmed or from the prickling pain of Tommy's wire bristle stubble. After years of being underdogs, recognition finally came, igniting the dreams of many. Luke pushes Tommy, rubbing his own reddening cheek. When Tommy goes to hug Xavier, Xavier places another pot of cactus on his desk, creating a barrier between him and the others. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. I haven't finished sorting out this year's files yet, so I won't be able to make it home again. Hey, I'm going to be home alone too. Someone's going to have to keep watch here. How about we do this together? Xavier, will you be here tomorrow? Seeing Xavier about to shake his head, Luke quickly adds, there's plenty of meat and you can eat as much as you want. Okay. On the promised day, cloaked in the veil of night, Xavier walks back to the police station alone. Outside, the sound of fireworks echoes. Inside, the break room buzzes with warmth and growing merriment. At the heart of the table is a hot pot. Luke has brought freshly wrapped dumplings from home, sparking a debate with Tommy about whether pork-filled or seafood-filled dumplings taste better. Arthur calls out to Xavier, why are you standing there? Come in and help put up the window decorations while the food cooks. Once the dumplings are eaten, snow begins to fall again. The room is very warm, prompting Xavier to step outside for some fresh air. Not long after, Arthur follows him, handing him a can of beer while lighting a cigarette. Last month, while doing inventory, I found a file missing from the archive, he says, exhaling a smoke ring without even glancing at Xavier. SD 199-40122, an event that happened decades ago. The involved party is long gone, and the office gave up looking into it. I wonder who still cares about this case. Xavier watches him in silence, patiently waiting for what will be said next. I immediately requested for your personal files from HQ. They were impeccable. Even during your time here, your actions have been anything but disappointing. There was a match in the portrait database. I found this. Arthur turns to Xavier, handing him a picture. In the faded yellow photograph are the traces of a man with silver hair. His figure is tall, slender. All that remains is a blurry white silhouette. Everyone has secrets, he chuckles, exhaling a ring of smoke. The older we are, the less expectations we have for the new year. Regardless of our days, life continues its steady, momentous flow. We hope you continue to stay. Through the floor-to-ceiling window, a group of people can be seen mimicking the TV's anchor's lively dance, exclaiming Happy New Year. Xavier sighs, wondering if these people are truly capable of being a competent team. He lifts his head, staring at the New Year's fireworks that burst in the stoke of midnight above 1,000 high-rise buildings. It's time for him to leave. This is hitting me in the feels, actually. Jesus. 2 days after Lincoln's New Year's Day, the streets remain eerily deserted. Xavier slips the missing file into the mailbox downstairs and proceeds to feed the stray cats nearby before climbing up the stairs to his apartment. During the time it takes for rice to heat up, Xavier steals a glance at his phone. Finally, after 24 hours, he finally receives a response to the message he sent last night. Noah, aren't you going to ask what I'm going to do with this? Xavier had told him to come to his house to pick up the file. Xavier, that's your business. There are signs on the other end. The typing indicator appears and disappears again and again. Xavier stares at his phone, waiting. It's not until the microwave dings, signaling that his food is ready, that a message is sent. I want to use this for a new identity. I just want to be an ordinary person in this timeline. Are you still there? Do you think it's funny? I don't blame you though, I agree. Xavier, I was just heating up some food. Noah, ... Is it true? Is it that Earth junk food has absolutely zero nutritional value again? I don't get why you like it. Their convenience stores can't even be bothered to change the flavour of their chicken cutlet rice balls. And what about you? You mentioned how you're not accumulated to the climate and you're not fond of the food, but you fell in love with someone here. Touché. There's nothing wrong with that. Enough about me. Are you really going to wait for that person? Yeah. How long are you going to wait? 10, 100, or 1,000 years? Something messed with this slip space during the backtrack. This spaceship couldn't handle the deep space tunnel fluctuations. Both she and the ether core vanished without a trace. For all we know, they might already be cosmetic dust. I know. Even if you press on, you're not going to get the outcome you're hoping for. Suddenly, the deafening sounds of fireworks resounds outside. Xavier looks into the night. Some windows are adorned with festive decorations for the new year. The outline of these decorations, bathed in the soft yellow glow, paints a picture of safety and warmth as silhouettes move within. Xavier walks to the door and activates the intercom's visual screen, revealing the figure of a young man. He presses the button. It's in the mailbox. Take it and go. You! The young man is startled. He looks from left to right before he composes himself. He focuses on the camera. Goodbye. Wait, I have something to say. With a certain resolution set in his heart, he stares at his former friend on the other side of the screen. Be careful. They're going to find you. Oh, so Xavier was waiting for us, huh? Oh my god. Lingering in one place for too long always leaves noticeable traces. Xavier has certainly thought about this. Over the years, he has walked many paths, only to realize that there is no real difference between them. Despite their inevitable end, these paths are still worth treading. The fire blazes with such intensity that it leaves no chance for survival. Everything burns, leaving nothing behind. He decides to die in this fire. Xavier turns his gaze to the abandoned factory, which appears much like a military base. The criminal chose a good place to hide. He drags the unconscious man onto the snow, retraces the steps, and discards the man's identification and bats him in a corner. The signs of a struggle have been set. The flames surge even higher, lighting the night sky. A few residential buildings are lit, and soon the urgent wail of a siren echoes from afar. At the bus stop, Xavier watches a police car speed by. As he prepares to board the bus, there's a cry behind him. He turns to find a little girl sitting alone at the corner of the road under a streetlight. The girl is young, a dirty rabbit plushie lying at her feet. Upon seeing someone approach, her sobbing gets worse. Are you lost? Did you run away from home? Never mind. Cry louder so they can find you when I'm gone. Why are you so mean, mister? The candy in your mouth hasn't even melted yet. You haven't been away from home for long, have you? Xavier approaches her, brushing the snow off her head. Since you live nearby, you should hurry back. And what about you? The little girl looks up at him, her curiosity overpowering her fear. Did you run away from home? What is that shiny thing around your neck? Xavier rubs his neck, choosing the easiest question to answer. I'm leaving soon. Well, coincidence, a voice suddenly brings out from the other side. A young man, leaning against a sign that reads closed, stares at Xavier with an air of enthusiasm. He has silver hair, much like Xavier's, though he seems slightly younger. Long time no see. It has been a long time, Xavier says, looking at his former friend. You followed me all the way here to let me know. It must have been hard. I'm curious how you managed to elude us. His friend walks over, hiding in plain sight as an inconspicuous guy. It's not much different from what I imagined. I thought you'd kill them before leaving. He shrugs, a twinkle of amusement in his eyes. You abandoned them, just like the backtrackers. How are you going to cover your tracks this time? Kill me, or let me... Before he finishes speaking, a dazzling light flashes. When his vision clears, Xavier and the little girl are nowhere to be found. The man stares at the footprints in the snow and grimaces. A blade of light materializes in his hand and he hurries to follow the faint energy ripple. Just a street away, Xavier lands in a narrow alley, cradling the girl in his arms. The flurry of snow he makes conceals their footsteps. He picks up the fallen rabbit plushie, brushes it off, and hands it to the girl. If anyone asks, say this rabbit helped you. The girl clutches her bunny tightly, nodding. You're very handsome. When I grow up, will you be my boyfriend? Oh my god, is he speaking to baby MC? No. Why? Do you like somebody already? Xavier hums softly, turning a blind eye to her sad expression. He hurries out of the alley. I'm leaving now. You can watch the shooting stars later. The surrounding light gradually converges in the palm of his hand. The streetlight nearby, the searchlight in the distance, and the light from every window of the surrounding skyscrapers suddenly go out, and even the moonlight dims. The city is plunged into darkness. The sound of footsteps stops, then draws closer. Xavier opens his eyes, but he doesn't turn to face the person behind him. Instead, he gazes at the sky. You've never managed to beat me in the past. Things are different. Besides, the teachers at the academy will only teach the best of the best. It's too dark, so much that the young man named Isa can barely make out Xavier's silhouette. His position can only be discerned through the sound of his voice. You can guess how I'll erase our traces. Suddenly the darkened sky illuminates. Radiant light engulfs the two. Clusters of light streak across the sky like countless shooting stars, each shining brightly. The light bathes the city hall, illuminating every tree lining the streets, and in an instant the entire city is as bright as day. Sweetheart, what are you doing here? You have me worried sick. The girl holds her breath, clutching the rabbit plushie in her arms tightly and staring at the sky. A young woman, tears streaming down her face, hugs her. The girl's eyes light up with excitement as she explains, "Mom, a very handsome guy saved me." Arthur is jolted awake by an urgent phone call. An explosion has occurred at an abandoned factory in the southern part of Lincoln City, where the strong traces of evil have been detected. An anonymous tip claims to have spotted the silhouette of the S-rank fugitive guy, Grey Hawk. By the time he arrives at the scene, the factory enveloped in raging flames have been burnt to a crisp. As for Guy Hawk, he is currently lying shivering in the snow on the verge of being frozen to death. Arthur has a bad feeling about this. Turning to his colleague who arrived earlier than him, he asks, "What happened?" He said, "What's that guy from your team called? Silver hair, kinda young, doesn't smile much, keeps to himself." The officer ponders for a moment. Is it Xavier? Arthur nods, a sense of foreboding creeping into his heart. He was trapped inside. His colleague's voice suddenly falls to a whisper, his gaze fixed on the raging fire. He couldn't get out. So he faked his death then. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that makes a lot more sense. The entire city is blanketed in pristine silver, devoid of any sound. The heavy snowfall ceased by dawn, leaving only sporadic snowflakes to flutter onto Xavier's face. The fresh crisp snow crunches under his boots, each step becoming more heavy than the last. By the time he reaches his home, he can only lean against the wall and slowly sink to the ground. After such a long journey, it's time for a good night's sleep. During that winter, everyone talked not only about the New Year resolutions, but also about the shooting stars that suddenly appeared in the abrupt plunge into darkness. Some speculated it was an explosion of a neutron star millions of light years away. Others suggested it was a reconnaissance aircraft from a neighboring country being destroyed, or a whole type of new biological weapon. A day later, a team conducts a thorough search of the factory. Eventually, in the abandoned part on the third floor, they found a police gun designated ST-1101 and some remaining identification documents. Xavier, 23, served in the Bloom Shore Special Task Force of Lincoln City. In the winter of 2033, he honorably sacrificed himself during a solo mission to apprehend the wanted criminal, Grey Hawk. So he faked his death so he could get out of this job at the police station. But I'm assuming if he's immortal, that would make sense, because obviously he can't stay in one place for too long because he'll get suspicious. Right, I've been sat here reading for 27 minutes nearly, so let's read this last one and get this all finished up. In the year 2045, spring arrives. The day before New Year's Eve, Xavier finds himself in a cemetery on the city outskirts. Despite the passage of time, the disaster from 11 years ago failed to ravage this place. The sun, however, has bleached the granite tombstones white, and details of the deceased have been obscured by grass and blossoms. But in line with the Special Task Force customary confidentiality, the tombstones bear no pictures or names, only birth and death years and a string of special police numbers. Initially, Xavier only remembered ST-1101. As years passed, many more people appeared. Some were old friends, while others were strangers. Some he had spoken to, others he had merely encountered once before. He didn't visit often, but whenever he did, there were always flowers placed on the grave. He remembers the month just after his death. The turnout at his funeral was not large, yet inexplicably everyone was crying. Luke, removing his glasses, was sobbing, snot running down his nose. Tommy, embracing Arthur, wailed loudly. Even Arthur subtly wipes the corner of his reddened eyes, though he had turned his head away. It's a peculiar feeling, as if part of his life is buried beneath the tombstone despite it being empty. It's not the absurdity of being taken by death, but rather the unfamiliarity of being remembered for the first time by those who should not remember him. It's like a traveller after many years returns to the place from which he departed, only to discover someone is still gazing at the spot where he vanished. Happy New Year. The florist takes the money and hands him the flowers. Xavier collects his thoughts, expresses his gratitude, and also wishes him a Happy New Year. Within the cemetery, Xavier gently places the flowers on the graves of those he respectfully refers to as neighbours. A young girl hurriedly wheels an elderly woman past him. "You always keep saying that, Luke this, Tommy that, oh, and your beloved rookie Xabe." Upon hearing his name, Xavier turns around. He sees the elderly man in the wheelchair point at him, his hand trembling. "Isn't that Xavier? That's Xavier." The girl pauses, her gaze meeting Xavier's. She gives him an apologetic smile. I'm sorry, my grandpa's old. He confuses people when he's not lucid. Xavier shakes his head. It's alright. He doesn't say much, and the girl doesn't follow up. She simply leans in to whisper something into the old man's ear. Her voice is barely audible, but he hears her say, here for the same reason as we are. The girl stops Xavier from leaving, smiling. Excuse me, are you the relative of a police officer? Can I take your picture of my grandpa? Xavier turns his gaze to the elderly man in the wheelchair and nods. He wheels the old man to the edge of the cemetery beneath a lone pine tree. As the setting sun disappears, the overlapping shadows of the tree and the people dance upon the aged white brick wall. I may be old, but my memory isn't as frail as you might think, the elderly man in the wheelchair slowly says. Long time no see. Long time no see. Don't worry, I won't remember you for long. He laughs and coughs, gasping for breath several times. In a few more years, when people ask about Xavier, I'll have forgotten about you. Not far away, the young girl raises her hand, flashing an okay. Ready? Say cheese. 3, 2, 1. The camera clicks. After many years, he finally leaves a bit of himself in someone else's story. Do you want a copy? Xavier shakes his head. Alright then, Happy New Year, the girl says. She waves in goodbye and leaves with the old man. Xavier also smiles. Happy New Year. Oh my god, first off, my eyes are hurting after reading for that long. I need to start learning to take breaks between the readings, because oh my god, right. Ugh, you can tell it's bad because my head's going like that. Right, my overall thoughts on that, definitely giving a lot more context into him, because truthfully, Xavier's kind of one of those characters I think I probably know like the least about. He's very full of mystery, very kind of kept to himself, kind of similar to Zane in that way. But, you know, he's got the very mysterious past vibe going on for him. So, this was really fun to read, actually. I'm going to go ahead and get this rendered so we can get this out to you guys for Monday. And then, obviously, I've got a cute little reaction to a cover song coming. But yeah, let me know if you guys want me to read anything else. Zane's Antidotes will be coming out before the Love and Deepspace Part 2 playthrough comes out, because I read those before I continued playing. So I will probably drop those two probably on Sunday or Monday. Probably both on Monday if I can't get them out on time. So apologies if we get too many videos in one day, but hey, it's content. You guys are never going to complain about that. Okay, right, let me go and get this edited. See you in a bit, guys. Bye!